Everything's so disposable now, but these things have character and things that you can't actually recreate.
Yeah.
And they have a feel about them that you can't recreate. And, if you lose it, it's gone forever. And you're not going to, we don't build like this anymore. And it's just, we can't afford to willy-nilly put 10-inch base in public places and all kinds of crazy cornice and metal ceilings and things. And so if you can save those and show people like what we used to do, I think it's worth doing. And especially, I believe in downtowns. And so I want people down here. I want this to last for another 100 years because it can go the other way.
Yeah.
So I had a question about the historic status.
Yeah.
I mean, getting that was a big project. Obviously, you didn't do it just because you thought that was cool. There are tax credits or things that comes with that. How does that help you as a developer?
So part of what we were talking about a minute ago was like getting the plan in place so I can go do a capital stack, which is putting all the money together to make the thing go. Those historic preservation tax credits are a big portion of it. You can get 20% federal, 20% state. The state is transferable, so you can actually sell those to banks and insurance companies, monetize them up front in order to help finance the project. Now, it's not a dollar for dollar 40% thing. So, real savings is probably 27 to 25%, but that's still a decent, healthy injection that you wouldn't otherwise have.
And you were saying you're thinking $5 to $6 million, so that's going to at least be an impact of a little over $1 million.
Yeah, and so that gets to be a pretty decent discount on what you're doing. We sit in an opportunity zone down here, so that'll help attract some investment. There are some other things that we can do as part of the capital stack to make the project go forward, but certainly the HP is a big deal. For me, it's actually twofold. Yes, it's a big portion of the capital stack, but also when I'm done, I can look at this building and be like, okay, that thing's gonna be there for a long time. If you look at what, I think the last historic preservation project we had was Winfrey Houston's there at 7th and Husband. That building still looks amazing. And Winfrey did that in the 80s. And I think you're gonna get 80 years from now, and Winfrey's building is still gonna look amazing.
Yeah.
And with the right amount of course, continued maintenance. But I think when this thing gets done, I'll be able to say, yeah, okay, this is here for some generations to come, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. You can move on to the next thing.
Yeah. Very good.
So the building is 15,000 square feet right now. It's 50 by 100 deep. The lot is like every other lot. It's 140 deep. And so we have the ability to add 2,000 foot per floor of a footprint going up. And that's kind of what we intend on doing. The mezzanine, oddly enough, not original to the building. So the State Historic Preservation Office said I don't have to keep it, although we do intend to keep part of it and incorporate it into the plans. So, and this place keeps getting broken into. So you'll see, I had to get a hold of Norm the other day and say, hey man, I really am serious about some increased patrols down here, because I walked in and the cot's not here. There was a cot over there, but they took a ceiling tin and a paint pan and made a fire in here, and we're living in here. Wow. And I had told them, I was like, this is a 120-year-old wood structure. When it goes, it's going to go, and when it goes, it's going to take the block, not just one building. And so we do have increased patrols downtown now, thank God. Yeah, so the mezzanine that I intend to keep probably stops a little bit before this bend. There's going to be a separate kind of leather and mahogany fine cocktail bar in this 1/3 of the south part of the building. And so, yeah, this will all come out, and then it will go back in a very similar iteration, but nothing like it looks now, because it's only supported from these joists. And you can see on this side, you don't have a lot of deflection in your floor. Over here, you have some pretty decent bellies in those joists, and a couple of them have busted. Really is not the best method for building.
But hey, it's now made it 120 years.
Well, back in the day, people were a lot smaller, and we had less stuff, and so you could make that work. But now, and I had lights in here, but whoever was living here was nice enough to cut my power in the back, and so I no longer have lights. This is the old elevator. cargo area, and I've had to wall it off twice now to try and keep people from kicking it in because they just love these old buildings.
Yeah, you beefed it up since last time we were in here.
Yeah, I had to. I spent a
Yeah.
Saturday in here doing a lot of screwing and supporting and bracing. And
Yep.
this was, at one point in time, Norm McNichol said he saw a car being lifted on that elevator into the second floor. So it's been a little bit of everything, but for the most part, it was always furniture and hardware
Yeah.
for a very, very long time.
Yeah, it seems like a Nelson furniture store seems to be the last one.
The
that
last
we could track
one, I think
down.
that's right, yeah. So these were all auto grays. These were all his band members' sleeping rooms on this side, and then a community bathroom, and then his apartment was all the way at the front, and it looks a little bit more like a kind of master style apartment.
Yeah. Bricked it all up.
They did, and we'll be yanking a lot of those out and restoring them.
So when I was talking, I interviewed Jana Phillips, OSU architect.
Yeah, she comes in here once a year, I think.
She said that she had not been in this building
Okay,
for 10 years.
gotcha. Somebody brings a group of students in here once a year.
Oh, really?
I unlock it.
Somebody from
OSU.
OSU architect.
OSU architecture, yeah.
And but she was saying, so I was asking her about the kind of the requirements that she knew of as far as historic preservation, and it sounded like as far as it's mostly for the outside of the building, and they try to encourage you to use as much original stuff as possible for the inside, but the inside it's kind of up to
Within reason, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have to use, like, in areas that have plaster, we'll be restoring a lot of plaster.
Yeah.
In areas that had evidence of that tin, we'll have to go back with that tin for ceilings and stuff like that. Areas that had wood floors, we'll have to go back with wood floors. So down in the area, in the front room, or whatever you call that, the ground floor, you see a lot of fir floors and whatnot. Those will all come out. We'll re-support everything, and then we will go back with that.
got it.
Or similar. So this was Otto's apartment. And we actually have a picture of him in here, sitting, I think, in that corner.
Okay, so that is from the Oklahoma cowboy band.
Yeah.
And it does look like, it's hard to tell because they were really big windows, and those look like at one point they were really big windows.
Yeah, they are.
So that is where that photo was taken.
I believe so. This was
Okay.
his bedroom. In there was a closet and a bathroom. So he had his own ensuite bathroom, which was pretty unusual back in the day.
Yeah. And then it looks like they really didn't spend a whole lot of time in this building.
No,
They traveled a whole lot.
They traveled a lot. They had a huge travel budget, $100,000 back in, what, 28 or something like that?
Yeah, and driving like fancy cars.
Very custom Cadillacs.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was his other thing, was tricking out touring cars.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal at the time too, that helped them, is the ability for early roads for them to go travel and go to New York and go to where they actually did their live broadcasts.
Yeah.
But not enough to be a reason for historic preservation of this building. The building itself and the architecture, that was the reason.
Yeah.
Otto's story wasn't quite enough. I actually talked to a guy, Samuel Bell, in 2018, 2019. He was a OSU student, and he did a story. He actually interviewed the McCollums and stuff too.
Okay.
And he was talking about, hey, this should be preserved, and looked at the requirements and was like, it should be preserved for these two reasons, for what is it, C and D or whatever those multiple ones. And so he got one of them right, but Otto wasn't the building was not unique enough to his story, I guess.
Yeah, it had been denied a few different times, and so we were pretty excited to get it done as far as registered, and now it's onward and upward to the more expensive part of the registration process, where you start preparing actual plans and presenting them and revising them and doing all of that. So
Yeah, the hard work's really still to come.
there's a reason that I've sat on it for a year and a half now. It's like, It's a daunting task.
And which you mentioned is not normal for you.
No, my typical is like buy it and 6 months later have it renovated into something. And like, so you'll see that with Stone Cloud. I bought it, and within about 4 months we started demo and everything like that. And then will be barely over a year that I will have owned it before Stone Cloud is up and running and completely functional.
Got it.
I bought the mirror fields next door to it, and it'll be a similar situation. It'll be done within the year. We did Mike's at 10th and Main, and it'll be done, I think, within a year to 18 months.
Oh, you gonna tease us with what kind of restaurant's going in there? You don't have to. To give names.
If I knew, I'd let you know. But
Oh.
right now, I mean, for Mike's, I'm in the chasing phase. For mirror
Got
fields, I think that'll get revealed in a couple weeks.
Ooh,
We have,
teaser.
we have a lease on it. I have to present to the city, and so until I go forward with that, it's one of those things. Like typically, I will tell people after I have a lease signed. On this particular one, I'm going to say after the lease is signed and after all of the finances in order.
There you go.
A lot of money. All of these things. A lot of time, a lot of money. This is wallpaper, which I thought was really interesting because I thought it was galvanized metal attached to the wall, but
It's wall.
it's just wallpaper.
Oh, sorry.
This is the old fire door that goes in between the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Shippo was very adamant that we will preserve the staircase. It has historic significance.
Oh,
and
the
so-
actual wood.
You know, I think we're
Oh.
going to take the staircase apart because it's actually not up to code anymore.
Yeah.
But access to this from Main Street will remain. Access to the second floor and the third floor from Main Street will also remain.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the only way to get in the second floor of the other.
Yeah, and
building.
like transoms like that have to be preserved. And so you'll see some of those get restored whenever we put them in here.
That looks cool. All right. Now we're going to a completely different address from 907 South Main Street to 909
Yep.
South Main Street.
This is one of the first instances of condominium style building. In that the first and second floor were built by Dale Lytton, and the third floor was built and owned by the Masons, although it all went up simultaneously. Kind of an interesting gig.
Yeah.
And I think probably part of the reason the damn thing's still standing is because the Masons were involved in the construction. It's actually, I've had two major brick restoration companies in, and they said, this is actually in really good shape. We're going to tuck and point, and we're going to redo this and that, but generally speaking, it's actually in really good shape. So I think that's a testament to who built it more than anything, because it can't be how it was maintained. This place hasn't been maintained in years.
Yeah, so I'm getting ready to meet up with the current Mason Lodge, and I guess they have a photo from 1943 from inside the lodge up here that I'm
yeah?
gonna get. So
Oh, very cool.
we'll
like
be
to
able
see
to
it.
kind of see what that, because we
You going
haven't.
down to Guthrie, or are you going to the one here?
Brad Rickelman has it.
Okay, very cool.
So, but yeah, they were here till the end of the 40s, till 1950s. Yeah, so all that
Got
woodwork.
the old rosettes and things, and 10-inch baseboards with the corners in there. It's got some stuff that's really hard to replicate or very, very expensive to replicate these days. And then you have both stages are still intact. I think back in the early 90s, a bank put the roof on once they foreclosed and took it back.
Yep.
And so I think that's where this steel roof comes on. There's a really good chance that we'll keep the steel roof and go over it with what we're doing. But we'll have to see, because part of, I want a rooftop bar and event space up there.
Okay.
You have to be very careful because you can't see it from, you walk 75 foot away from the building. You can't be able to see anything up there as part of your historic preservation stuff. And so we may end up having to take this down and lower it a little bit. We have a lot of room to come down.
Yeah.
And use the existing parapet wall on the front to kind of be the site blocker. So we'll see. The architect, like I said, was here just a little while ago, and they're more inclined to keep it and work around it than they are to get rid of it. So,
Well,
I
yeah.
like keeping it because that saves about $25 a square foot for putting a new roof on. On the other hand, we'll just see what it looks like.
All right. Michelle, you want to try to make your way over here?
Yeah.
Because this floor is really cool. There are some holes.
I see this. Yeah. My husband's like,
it's not
"You're-"
for the faint of heart.
I know. My husband's like, "You're going where?"
Wow, lots of nails. Somebody spent some time pulling out lots of nails. It'd be interesting to see if that photo is from the 40s, what color the walls were then.
You know, I think as gross as they look, this is really a beautiful color, though. It really is kind of gorgeous.
Yeah. All right, and they got the stages
Yeah.
on both sides.
So this would have been the stage where the bands would have played?
Oh, no, I think that's the stage for the Masons.
Oh, for the
I
Masons,
think
that's
for the-
right.
they have
For their
ceremonies.
ceremonies.
They have two, one there and one here.
There's one
Okay.
behind.
I think there's the ritual stages, but I don't know. And then on the other side of that wall is a room about the exact same without the stages.
Okay. Are you going to try to preserve the old beadboard?
Yeah, actually, so, unlike today where the beadboard comes in a 4x8 sheet and is a 1/4 inch thick, this is the real deal. And
It
so we
looks
will-
like it's in pretty good shape considering.
Yeah, we will take it down and restore it. I love this stuff, and it is super hardwood, so yeah. It'll get reincorporated either into an apartment, or what we've done before is we've taken the ceilings down that were beadboard and we've put them down as the floor, hit it with a sander and a sealer. It looks very New Orleans and very authentic. We have one above Elite Repeat that has the most beautiful floors I've ever seen, and it's the original beadboard from the ceiling in there.
Now, the idea is that this top floor is turning into Airbnbs, rentals.
Yeah, so I think both floors will actually be a mixture of short-term and long-term rental.
Okay.
So we'll do some loft apartments where people can live on a semi-permanent basis, and then we'll do some Airbnb stuff in between. So that I think we'll end up having around 20 doors, and I think 10 of those will be short-term status, and I think it will float a little bit. If
Yeah.
we're having an easier time doing the Airbnb, there's probably a higher margin on that, and it certainly creates more tax revenue for the city.
Yeah.
But if that slows down because somebody else comes in and dumps a hotel down here, then we'll just switch over to a more residential situation. And
The rooms and the layout will be flexible
and that's
for that.
the instructions that I've given the architect is like, listen, this is what I want, but this
Yeah.
is how it needs to have a hybrid function. Because I do think that there's definitely a market for a boutique hotel in downtown. Unfortunately, this just really isn't a big enough footprint for anybody to be interested in.
Yeah.
I can operate 6 or 10 of them out of my office on an Airbnb style.
Yeah.
And then if they're going well, then we'll continue doing that. And if they're not going well, then we'll convert them into just, and when I say convert, basically flip the switch and call it loft apartments. And we have a wait list on all the existing lofts down here right now anyway. So there's definitely a market. All I really care about is increasing density in downtown as far as
Yeah.
people staying here. That way they're going to the restaurants, they're shopping in our retail, things like that, because that's how we're going to save it. That's how we're going to maintain it.
Yeah, it's kind of different streams of income that
Yeah.
are possible.
People want to be where people are, and so if I can get more people living down here, the more people will want to come down here and socialize too.
And then we can get all the restaurants and the places that we always want. But we need people.
Gotta have people. Yeah. Gotta have people, gotta have a little bit of parking. We're getting
Yep.
a little bit of both right now.
Are you going to try to get that empty lot that's behind Uncle Mike's and all them? That's a quasi parking lot?
That's the old Oltman's Motor lot, and it's actually still in that family. And we have conversations. I imagine we'll end up in a lease situation with them.
Got it.
Contrary to popular belief, I don't need to or want to own everything down here. if I can find a way to make a deal where it doesn't always have
Just
to involve my
kinda-
checkbook, that's good.
Just kind of help get things lined up, get the ball moving, and get over some major hurdles, and this is definitely a major hurdle.
Well, it has been one of the things that has just killed this end of downtown for a long time.
You know,
There's a lot of my old original windows that we will take to the milling company and have them remilled and installed new ones. So that was actually one of the reasons we were able to hit historic preservations, because we had some of those in here still that we can take and have frames recreated out of to where they'll be damn near original. And we have a lot of original doors hanging out too.
So it's all those little details that really help bump up the historic value of it.
Yeah, and to be honest, it was hiring Cindy, who has done a lot of this for a long time, and saying, okay, I need you to write a narrative in a language. You know, when you walk into an operating room, you don't know what they're saying. It's like a different language. And when you walk into a courthouse, you don't know what they're talking about. It's a completely different vernacular. It's the same whenever you're in this historic preservation space. They are speaking a different language, and if you don't speak it and you don't dot all the I's and cross all the T's that they're looking for, then you're not going to get it. And I knew enough to know that I didn't know what they needed, and I knew that this building had been rejected, and I had about one more shot to get it right. And so we found Cindy, who's been in that space for a long time, and she came through and took hundreds of pictures of all kinds of things, and knew exactly how to tell that story.
how many hours do you think she spent in this building documenting
In
all
the
that?
building, she was only here probably 8 hours total.
Okay, so
But
it was a one-day thing for her.
writing that narrative, she came up twice and spent a half day each time.
Okay.
But writing the narrative and doing the research and analyzing the photographs and the architecture and the history about it, I mean, it was a multi-month process for sure.
Has anyone said about how much more life this building would have had in it if someone hadn't taken it on as a project?
No, but I can't imagine much, because I did spend $5,000 coating the roof with a membrane that will give it another 2 to 3 years while we're going through engineering and design. Because the guy that was here a little while ago, one of the contractors had told me, he goes, you don't think it's a big deal that this thing's leaking, because hell, it's been leaking for 50 years. Like, so? He's like, I'm telling you, you've got to get this thing dried in or you're going to lose it in the next 2 years. And so I spent money that I did not want to spend, because I consider it feels like a waste to me, because we're going to replace that roof anyway. Why do another coating on it? But when the guy that knows everything about construction says, you're going to lose this in the next 2 to 3 years if you don't get it dry in here, you listen to him and you do the thing. So I don't know how long the building would have stood, but I don't know how long he was telling me that parts of it were going to come down.
Well, I was working just down the road when that back brick wall fell in the back alley.
Yeah. Really bizarre,
That
right?
that was only a couple years ago. Very cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's a neat space that has a lot of opportunity and potential. It's just also going to take more time and money than I wish it would take.
Yeah.
And that's the real reality of it. But I bought it February 14th of 2020. The world crashed.
Yeah.
We hired a historic preservation architect, a architectural historian. That's her title, architectural historian. And it took us, not quite 18 months to get it like registered and on, but close.
Yeah.
But ends up being worthwhile. It will be eventually. The good news about the historic preservation, not only does it allow you access to tax credits, but because somebody is watching so well, when the building is done, you know it was done right. You don't have to take your contractor's word on it. You don't have to take anybody else's word on it. Like, they are looking over your plans. They are coming in and inspecting as you are building, and they know their stuff. And so, like, when you get done, you have an asset that will make it another 100 years. And that's important to me, because I won't be here, but, maybe somebody in my lineage will, but the town will still be here.
And that asset ideally now encourages improvement immediately surrounding it.
Hopefully. That's the idea.
So what's so immediately kind of what's next? What are we waiting on?
Right now, I am taking input from 2 different architectural groups that have historic preservation experience. Because it's one of those things, it's a really coordinated effort. It's not just as simple as calling an architect and saying, hey, design me this. You have to work within the confines of the State Historic Preservation Office, who works in conjunction with the National Park Service to make sure that you are going back with what is appropriate for the period from which they decided you had architectural significance, which for this structure was 1901. They took it all the way back to inception. They could have chosen 1950 if they wanted.
Interesting.
And so I'm actually really happy that they went back to 1901. It means that that mezzanine doesn't have to be there if I don't want it to be there.
Yeah.
We don't really have a good image of the storefront, so as long as I go back with something period for the storefront, we've got a little bit of latitude. There's some things that they're really married to that we'll have to obviously keep and incorporate. But so the next thing is, once I get those bids in from those architects and see which one I feel the most comfortable working with, and look at their HP consultants that they work with and see which one of those I feel most comfortable with. Then we say, okay, go for launch. They'll make me a design. We'll get the initial design approval through SHPO, and then I will go out and do my capital stack based off of the estimates that a contractor gives me that are on the pre-approved plans from SHPO.
Got it.
I anticipate it's probably going to be a $5 to $7 million project, all up, all in. And that was before the inflationary numbers that we just hit. And so I'm hoping to keep it in that area.
Yeah.
It's a pretty significant investment on a per square foot basis, but I think we'll end up having 20 apartments down here. I think we'll have 2 businesses down here. We'll have a rooftop bar. We'll have a big event space. So I think it will give a couple more reasons for people to be in downtown.
There'll be then some competition. Is it going to have to be the Lytton Williams building?
It will definitely remain the Lytton Building or the Masonic Building. I don't know. It's neat to be able to do these projects, but I don't need my name on it.
Got it.
I want the bar to be either autos or something along those lines. I want,
That would be cool.
every space that we have done, each apartment is different, but it doesn't look like I came in and white boxed a building and just built an apartment.
Yeah.
We've respected the architecture of that place. So you go above District Bicycles, there's 5 apartments up there. There were 2 original fireplaces in there, and those apartments, 2 of those apartments were built around those fireplaces. One apartment was built around those circular windows that were put in the 80s, and one of them with the big fiberglass thing, and then another we just kind of had to create. We had to create the architectural feature, so we took a barn down and we used barn wood on the wall. But above Elite Repeat, we took all the original doors out from Walter Grady's optometry office, and a dentist's office is up there. We took those down to Stillwater Building Center. They built new door frames around them, and we reincorporated those back into the spaces. We took the ceiling down and put it down as the floor. And so we really try to make sure that the architecture is being respected and kind of tell the story of whence the building has been. And so whenever we open up businesses in here, I want those businesses to kind of be an homage to who came 120 years ago.
Yeah.
And the things that they did and the imprint that they left. So
Yeah.
my goal, the restaurant, whoever operates the restaurant, they'll get to name that. The bar, I get to name. I'm hoping that because we take on this thing that hasn't been anything in 40 plus years, that the rest of the dominoes will also fall, and people will be walking down here and enjoying things, and we'll have open containers without it being crazy, and